As a new parent in Iceland, there are a few things that I have learned about throughout my pregnancy, and three things in particular that I'm going to share that are pretty much taboo in the United States to either do and one of them to not do in comparison to Iceland. And I think of some other European countries, you can of course write in the comments if your country does this or doesn't do it, but I'm going to share because some of them were shocking to me. And it might be shocking to you too, so let me know if you find any of them to be shocking. We do have now a 7-day-old child. My goodness, right here, crazy. I'm gonna go through my birth story as well in another video because that was intense. But let's get into these three and let me know what you think. The first and maybe most controversial of them all is bed sharing. And I'm not talking about co-sleeping when you have like the bed that is next to like a little baby crib that's next to the bed, but literally sharing the same bed as your child, so the adult bed. And I don't know about many of you, but all of the things I've learned from at least US suggestions and recommendations have been that it's extremely dangerous to bed share and that there's a high risk of SIDS. And you know, I'm not saying that there isn't in terms of under certain circumstances. Here in Iceland, the birthing classes that I've taken and the recommendations make it so that it's normalized to bed share when you're doing it correctly. And they have like these 7 different things to take into consideration. I'm not gonna lie though, because they're literally 2 conflicting ideas. One saying you can do it safely and it's totally fine. And I'm not saying everybody in Iceland does it, but that you can isn't something that's frowned upon. And it's something that's actually considered like worth doing because of the baby wants to be in proximity to you. But in the US, it is just like, absolutely not. And it threw me for a loop, like talking to my partner about it and like exploring this idea, because you never want to, you know, do something or make a mistake that could put the baby's life in jeopardy. At the same time, it is interesting how much more conservative the US is in this. And I think it's just because generally overall, there's so many circumstances in which things can happen where there's 300 million or more people in a country, and you know, people don't want to get blamed, health professionals don't want to get blamed for saying that you can do it and something negative happens. Whereas like here, it's like follow these rules and it will be fine. And I'll have a link maybe in the description to these 7 recommendations. It basically has to do with like not being on medication or under the influence of alcohol, like things like this, you know, how the bed could be like set up and whatever else. But yeah, not gonna lie, it was hard. It has been hard, like hearing that it's totally fine and then literally coming from a place where it's like absolutely not, never do that. The second is something that many people have heard about regarding Iceland and other Nordic countries, and that is when babies nap outside. So they're really bundled up and they're in their strollers, but you put them outside, take a nap. Our baby, way too young for that, and right now, but it's like usually some months old in which you bundle them up and put them outside. Again, another thing that is not familiar to me. I've seen it. I have friends who do it, who swear by it. They say the sleep is really good. I've heard that in the US back in like the 50s and 60s, people used to do this, even to the point where they were like at cafes and leaving their kids outside. And in Iceland, that does happen. Less frequently now, but definitely people at people's homes. And like we have a door out here to our garden in which we can do that safely. And, you know, meaning like there's not a lot of foot traffic. There's actually no foot traffic over here. It's a possibility. Do I still feel nervous about it? Absolutely. Am I willing to try? I think so. I'm a little scared, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Everything, and I'm sure parents can attest to this who have been parents for a long time or even just a short time like me, like everything is scrutinized in regards to whether or not it's safe, because you just want the best for your baby. And oh my goodness, I've never been so more protective of a person in my life. Oh, she's so sweet. But yeah, that is something that is very, very, very normalized here, and to the point where people will swear by it in order for the baby to get good rest. Luckily, our baby is very calm and very chill. My boyfriend was like, the baby's like me, because I try my best to keep very chill and just, you know, not take things way too seriously. So all throughout my pregnancy, I was pretty much that. But that could change. The baby could have a change in, they're growing, their mood, whatever, coming into their own, and maybe being able to have her nap outside will be what's necessary in order for her to get like some really good rest, and all of us to get a break, while she's taking that nap too. So we'll see. Last but not least is circumcision. And this isn't something that we had to think about because of our child being a girl, but for Iceland in particular, at least from what I learned from a birthing class that was virtually done, there's a person who asked about circumcision because they were coming from another country and they were just wondering if it was possible. And the midwife who was running that class said, no, in Iceland, unless something is medically necessary to be cutting off, that they don't do it. So if you were to give birth here to a boy and you wanted them to be circumcised, I don't know how that would be possible in terms of who would do that for you, because the hospital, at least from my understanding from that class, take that with a big grain of salt, but this is a person who's been a midwife here for over a decade, and it was very clear that even if it's a tradition where you're coming from, Iceland is working specifically based off of what is medically necessary. Some people might have opinions about cleanliness and whatever else, but there are plenty of people here that aren't circumcised, and that hasn't been an issue. I'm not here to judge it in terms of telling you whether or not you should or shouldn't do it. All I know is that that's the guideline here, and it was surprising to me to hear it only because it's so common in the US to do it, and here it's the opposite where they're like, not happening. So those are 3. I'm sure there will be other things that come up for me as a first-time mom that is interesting, but those stuck out the most just in terms of in comparison to where I grew up. And like I said, I think other European places or just other places in general might do or have similar ideas, traditions. But if not, I'd love to hear that. I'd like to know, what your thoughts are about these 3. And if there's anything to compare, from what you've learned about Iceland, how parenting is, that might be considered taboo even in Iceland compared to where you are, feel free to leave a comment about it. And yeah, 7 days in, oh my gosh, it's precious, it's amazing. I am overflowing with joy. I am in recovery. I had a very intense labor experience, and I will be talking about that because it was not something that any of us could have imagined. To say the least, but totally 1,000%, 10,000% worth it. I love my little bean. She's a sweetheart, and yeah, life has got even sweeter. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.